Hey, I want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for attending. This is like yet another in our series of debates about how AI is affecting our world and our fields in the Green-Spun College. We've had one about facial recognition technology. We're having this one about social work. We intend to have another one about how AI is going to be affecting journalism. In this particular debate, I have Elisa Martinez and Sagheerah Ahmed. They have been members of the debate team, Sagheerah, for quite a while, and Elisa, this is your second year?
Yes, correct.
Second year on the team. They're going to be debating the resolution that AI-driven decision-making tools should be used in child welfare cases. So the affirmative would be agreeing that, like, yes, these AI tools should be used, and that's Elisa today. And Sagheerah will be taking the opposing view. We also have a wonderful guest, Tony Chance, who has a Master's of Social Work, Child Welfare Workforce Development Manager, who will be giving us some insights of their own about this, and we'll definitely be opening things up to Q&A should you desire that as well. But I want to thank all my students and all Dylan's students, and I want to thank Dylan Brower, who is definitely, he's been my teaching assistant all year, and he's been the lead person on this particular public debate. So without him, this doesn't happen. I'm going to get applause for myself. Well done. Well played, sir. Without any further ado, I think that we have a certain designated amount of time for 2 opening speeches. In between those opening speeches, there will be cross-examination periods. Then we'll have a rebuttal speech from each side, and then a final focus type of speech to try and persuade the audience that your side is the winning side in this case. But I will leave it up to them and let them continue or begin.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Elisa Martinez, and I will be speaking first as the affirmative. Resolved. AI-driven decision-making tools should be used in child welfare cases. This debate should be weighed by cost-benefit analysis, meaning who outweighs who. My definitions came from Botanica.com. AI is an artificial intelligence, the ability of digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks commonly associated with intelligent beings. And child welfare is services and institutions concerned with the physical, social, and psychological well-being of children, particularly children suffering from the effects of poverty or lacking normal parental care. My first contention is AI can help reunite families faster by preventing unnecessary delays in court and welfare system. My subpoint A states reduce governmental delays. AI is not here to replace. It is here to provide guidance and help. The legal system in child welfare cases are notoriously slow, leading to children remaining in temporary placements for far longer than necessary. AI can analyze case processing, legal documentation, and compliance records to automate filings and streamline court decisions. A study done in Florida in Palm Beach County was able to prove that AI-empowered software is classifying and docketing e-file documents at courts in Florida. The court started with 3 low-risk volume case types, progressively expanding the variety and complexity of cases as they developed expertise with the robotic process automation system. In 2020, 68 types of cases representing nearly a third of all Palm Beach County's e-file documents were being documented automatically. When the court first launched the system, humans double-checked the work of the AI and found 100% accuracy of the bot's work. Now, humans review 15% of the filings documented by a human or an AI. My subpoint B is reducing social work burnout improves child welfare outcomes. Social work burnout is a critical issue in child welfare cases, directly impacting case delays and child placements along with family reunification. And social work burnout harms children and families. Burnout turnover rates in child welfare and social work cases are about 73% of social workers feeling some sort of burnout. And because of this exhaustion, it causes the turnover rates for child welfare cases to range from 20 to 40%. And social workers also experience caseload and emotional strain. The average child welfare worker is assigned twice the recommended caseload, leading to delayed case resolutions and disruptive family reunification. And this is according to the National Association of Social Workers. A study done in 2024 by the National Association of Social Workers found that 40% of social workers leave their job within 2 years, often citing from burnout, from excessive paperwork, and insufficient time with families. Leading to my second contention, AI enhances detection of emotional and psychological abuse. Subpoint A, AI analyzes language patterns and therapy in school reports. Emotional abuse often lacks visible indicators, making it more challenging to identify than physical abuse. Artificial intelligence can scrutinize data and textual evidence from school essays, perhaps text messages, or even emails, to overlook evaluators that humans may be using some sort of emotional manipulation or abuse. In 2024, researchers at Dartmouth College introduced the Mental Manip dataset, comprising 4,000 annotated dialogues from extracted movie scripts designed to test AI mobility skills. The study also evaluated models such as OpenAI, ChatGPT-4, and Meta's Llama 2, revealing that these models often misinterpret manipulative language as general toxicity, highlighting the complexity of detecting subtle emotional abuse patterns through AI language analysis. But if the AI is properly programmed and trained to catch these sort of issues, a 2024 forensic capability network found that AI could detect threatening messages 21 times faster than humans, identifying 3 aggressive phrases and 456 messages in over 1 minute. Lastly, AI tools can help assess vocal tone, speech patterns, and behavioral cues recorded to identify signs of severe stress, neglect, or hidden abuse. The model that the AI used, published by the Journal of Biomedical and Health, proved that 92% of accuracy in detecting distressful sounds such as crying, screaming, and enabling timely interventions in situations where abuse might be detected or otherwise may not be properly escalated. So these advancements illustrate AI's role in enhancing the detection of emotional and psychological abuse, offering tools and processes the complex data more efficiently than traditional methods. Thank you. Are you ready for cross-examination? Yes.
Okay, so start the time, please.
Okay.
How can AI-driven tools prevent racial and socioeconomic bias when they are historically trained on data that already contains these biases?
Thank you for that question. So in my first contention, my subpoint B, again, the title is Reducing Social Work Burnout Improves Child Welfare Outcomes. I proved that high turnover and rush decisions disproportionately hurt marginalized families. So AI reduces these inconsistencies by streamlining casework, ensuring fair and consistent decisions.
But since AI lacks that human judgment and empathy, how can it accurately assess a child's emotional attachment to their caregiver, different parenting practices in cultures, or normal human interactions, rather than flagging that as neglect or abuse?
Okay, well, I understand where you're coming from, but AI does not replace human judgment. It is going to enhance reducing the social work burnout and improving decision making, like I stated before. I proved that social workers are rushed and make inconsistent decisions. So the social worker could see the situation in a very dark light rather than seeing it for what it is, versus AI can help a social worker make the correct decision rather than making a clouded judgment due to burnout.
Thank you for that answer. And what safeguards exist to ensure that families can appeal AI-generated court case decisions, whether they are incorrect due to the AI's poor decision making or if it was ultimately a wrongful intervention that was taken in the case?
Great question. So humans can make the exact same mistake that AI can make, especially when it comes to court appeals. But AI, like I stated before in my first contention, it's going to it's going to unclog our courts because, as I stated before, AI is going to streamline case processings, but is not going to remove a human oversight. Thank you.
everyone. I'm Sagheerah, and I'm stand on the negation that AI-driven decision-making tools should not be used in child welfare cases. So, contention one is that AI perpetuates racial and socioeconomic bias. These tools reinforce systemic biases, harming marginalized families. Subpoint A is in MIT Technology Review 2023 found that predictive AI used in child welfare flagged low-income and minoritized families more. The study highlighted how AI models trained on historical data replicated past biases, leading to an over-representation of Black and Hispanic families when the state would intervene. So, AI learns from flawed human decisions. It's very difficult to eliminate the systemic discrimination that's ingrained in the programming of the AI. Subpoint B is the Brookings Institution 2024 analysis warned that AI in child welfare lacks transparency, making it difficult to really challenge these risk-based assessments. They use proprietary algorithms, meaning families and caseworkers cannot see the decision-making basis of the AI or really contest errors during the court process if they were to appeal a decision made by an AI. The second contention is that AI lacks human judgment and empathy. Child welfare decisions require human discretion, something that AI cannot fundamentally replicate. Subpoint A is according to a Harvard Law Review 2023, the article argued that AI-driven tools really fail to account for the nuances of family dynamics and the child well-being. They rely on statistical risk factors rather than contextualized case assessments done at an individual level, and they misjudge those complex family situations. They can't look at a child's attachment to their caregiver or cultural nuances because they're usually trained on white middle-class populations. Subpoint P is according to Child Welfare Information 2024 report. The best decisions really involve holistic assessments from social workers, psychologists, and family members, all collected to make the decision. They cannot replace professional judgment, and relying on it makes a more cold, statistical analysis-based decision that the AI is just referencing. Contention 3 is that AI-driven decisions ultimately endanger children. A ProPublica 2023 investigation found that AI child welfare tools falsely classified cases, they missed signs of severe abuse, and they flagged low-risk families, families that were Black, brown, marginalized, low income, because those families, statistics show, are more likely to have cases of abuse, while missing families where actual abuse was occurring. And in one case, it led to a child's death, and simultaneously in others removed children from stable, low-income homes based on these flawed risk assessment scores. So ultimately, it does not replace real-world investigative work, and its failures pose these life-threatening consequences. So creating a system that ultimately relies on AI more gives us that dependency and makes us feel safe and like we're really doing this thorough work, when in reality you're creating a system where people are going to fall through the cracks and children are going to be impacted. Subpoint B is a World Health Organization 2024 study highlighted that wrongful child removals from homes where long-term abuse is not occurring leads to long-term trauma, worse psychological and developmental outcomes. They face higher risks of anxiety, depression, and attachment disorders. By increasing wrongful removals and failing to identify the real abuse, this AI-driven welfare tools actively harm children rather than protecting. So essentially, if you choose to side with the app, you're choosing to assume that the AI is really going to be effective in ensuring the safety and well-being of every single child, rather than ultimately making holistic judgments with social workers. And again, there's a bias already ingrained in the AI, and it lacks necessary human judgments and leads to errors, and it must be constantly checked in conjunction with social workers and human judgment, ultimately. Thank you.
Would you like to sit or stand? Okay. will now be doing cross-examination. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so if AI models are improved over time, wouldn't that reduce errors, unlike human biases, which are harder to correct?
So these AI systems, these models are already currently being used. So as my last contention states, people are still being impacted from the errors that it is making. So I would suggest that until it is up to the standard of improvement, that they not be used. And while they continue, so as not to flag low income and minority families.
Okay, thank you. So if wrongful removals are the concern, wouldn't better AI training reduce them rather than eliminating AI altogether? I'm sorry, like I should word that better. I'm saying that wouldn't you think that AI would provide the correct guidance for a social worker to make the right decision?
Similarly, it does provide that guidance and that understanding, but similar to my answer for the first question, it must be used in conjunction with human judgment, and really all of the work being done with the AI should at least be glanced at and checked by someone with proper training to make sure that it's really a holistic assessment, so as not to result in wrongful removals.
Okay. And then last question, what specific aspects of human judgment do you believe AI cannot replicate?
So AI cannot replicate the nuances and fully understand the nuances of family dynamics, child well-being, cultural differences, and empathy, because it is ultimately trying to replicate that and is designed off of a neural network, but that technology is still constantly currently in development, and even my evidence from the Harvard Law Review supports that. So as of now, that technology is nowhere near the same par of a human being.
Thank you. I will now be going into my rebuttal. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you to my opponent for giving such a great speech. Well, now I will be going over their case and then going over my case. So first, their first contention about how AI perpetuates racial and socioeconomic bias. My opponent argues that AI reinforces these such biases, but I already have refuted this basically in my first contention, because I am saying that AI should be used as a form of guidance. It should not be used to create these decision-making tools that have a emotional or maybe their own experience of a bias. AI is here to help the social workers have guidance and help and not feel so much burnout. My case directly addresses the root of all these issues, which is court cloggings, and also how, when social workers are so overwhelmed with so much casework, it's not going to allow them to make the correct judgment, and if anything, have a clouded judgment in what decisions they're going to make to impact the child's lives. AI will help solve this problem by, again, providing streamlined case processings and reducing social work burnout, and ensuring that families experience fewer disruption in their cases. And AI doesn't replace human discretion. It supports social workers by making their jobs more manageable and reducing the inconsistencies that lead to racial disparities. And since my opponent's contention is based on the assumption that AI is a sort of bias, their argument collapses. Bias is a product of human failures, and my case proves that AI can help correct these failures by creating a more consistency decision-making and reducing the burden on overwhelmed caseworkers. And also, my opponent argued that AI cannot understand the complexity of family dynamics and will make cold mechanical decisions, but I have already refuted this in my first contention, subpoint A. AI can help reunite families by preventing unnecessary delays. The assumption that social workers have the time and capacity to make a holistic, empathetic assessment is extremely flawed. But right now, since our system is so overloaded, meaning caseworkers don't have time to carefully consider each case, my case proves that social workers handle double the recommended caseloads, leading to rushed decisions, delayed reunifications, and poor assessments. If my opponent is concerned about the holistic decision making, they should support my case. AI allows social workers to focus on what truly matters, interacting with families, accessing cases more thoroughly, and making well-informed decisions rather than scrambling to keep up with high case workloads. Since my opponent relies on the assumption that social workers currently have the ability to make perfect decisions, their contention fails. The reality is that social workers don't have enough time or resources, and AI fixes this issue by giving them the support they need for them to thrive in their job. And lastly, their contention about AI-driven decision-making endangers children. My opponent claims that AI will misidentify cases leading to wrongful removals and missed abuse, but I already refuted this in my first contention, subpoint B, that AI-driven tools can assess vocal tone, speech pattern, and behavioral cues, because the current system already fails children alone by human caseworkers missing signs of abuse or wrongfully removing children from their home due to rushed or quick decision-making biases. And my opponent assumes that AI will increase errors, but my case proves that AI will reduce these errors and mistakes that already exist in our current system. The real cause of wrongful removals is not because of AI, it's overloaded caseworkers making rushed, inconsistent decisions. AI helps standardize the process, ensuring that removals are clear based on evidence risk factors rather than the personal biases of individual caseworkers. Thank you.
Thank you for that rebuttal speech, Elisa. So today's discussion asks whether AI decision-driven making tools should be used in child welfare cases to ultimately make a decision. And while the affirmative highlights the potential for faster care processing, advanced detection tools, their arguments ignore the dangers that AI poses when it's placed on the individuals making the decision and really making these life-altering decisions for children and families. So walking through what's at stake here, regarding their first contention, they argue that AI can help reunite families faster, when the reality is that AI learns from historical data that we've implemented in it. So research from my MIT Technology Review 2023 shows that AI systems repeatedly flag these low-income and minoritized families. This happens because the AI has been taught that these are the families to look for and be concerned about. So while my opponent is arguing that this will be the most beneficial method to unclog the court system, the reality is the AI is working off the information it has been trained on, and creating those data sets for AI takes years. And so it will be years until they have improved the AI system, and until then these families will continue to be minoritized and harmed and picked out from the crowd. And it has copied that bias into its algorithms. The affirmative also says that AI reduces burnout, but the reality is that AI lacks the transparency necessary to fully understand how it's making these decisions and how it's picking these families and choosing to say that a child is being abused versus saying that this is a rather neutral situation. And so when families can't understand challenge or the AI's decision, it makes the social worker's job more difficult ultimately, not easier. Caseworkers end up spending time explaining confusing AI decisions, dealing with appeals, rebuilding relationships with families. The real solution to social worker burnout is lowering their caseloads and providing better support for the caseworkers, not replacing their professional judgment with algorithms that would ultimately be impacting children and their families in the long term. My opponent's second contention is that AI enhances this detection of emotional and psychological abuse, but it overestimates what AI can do. AI cannot fully understand emotional human emotions as they are ours. It has been explained to it, it understands it, but it doesn't feel it, it doesn't experience it. Neither does it experience cultural context or the unique dynamics of individual families. So when it is working with families, people of color or different cultures, it's not necessarily going to be able to work with those families as well or understand them because its data set has information on white Western families. So the information within the Child Information Gateway emphasizes this and how these holistic assessments by social workers, psychologists, and family members are ultimately the best route to take, and they should be the ones making the decisions. And lastly, these decisions that are driven through AI, they endanger children. They are not minor errors, they are life-altering mistakes. And they falsely classify cases, and they cause long-term trauma according to the WHO. And this is the core danger of allowing AI to make the ultimate decisions. The affirmative will insist on arguing that there's just being used as guidance, but it is ultimately also being used to make the decision and is taking the autonomy from the experts, the social workers, and the psychologists and placing it more in the AI's hands. Thank you.
Before I give my speech, I just want to give a quick thank you to the audience. Thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you Dr. Hannigan, thank you Dylan, and thank you Sagheerah. Now I will begin my final focus. Instead of rejecting AI entirely, we should focus on the way that it helps family, not harms them. Again, let me remind you guys of what the affirmative is standing for. The affirmative is standing for AI decision-making tools should be used in child welfare cases. And the affirmative was able to outweigh the negative in this debate because I was able to prove how and why AI will be efficient if implemented in child welfare cases. Again, AI is not here to replace humans, it is here to help and guide. And my first voter is that we solve root cause of the bias, and the neg just points them out. And my opponent case assumes that AI inherently creates a bias, but ignores the fact that bias already exists in our current justice system, and especially when it comes down to overloaded social workers who will, again, make rush decisions and inconsistent case handling. And these issues disproportionately harm low-income communities, leading to, or they disproportionately impact all families across the board. And implementing AI will not only reduce the court clogging, but it will also minimize social worker burnout, allowing them to have an improved consistency in their case proceedings and work. Unlike a human caseworker making a decision under stress, AI ensures that cases are assessed using standardized criteria. Also, AI fixes the inefficiencies that keep families apart, because right now families are trapped in the child welfare system for far too long due to inefficiencies and blockages. Again, the affirmative proves that AI will streamline case processing, automatic routine tasks, and allowing caseworkers to focus on real family evaluations rather than paperwork. And lastly, we prioritize the child's safety while the negative leaves it to be a broken system, because the negative relies on the fear of AI. They point out the problems, but in reality, AI doesn't replace human judgment. It strengthens by allowing caseworkers to focus on what matters most. If you believe that AI will help and guide caseworkers, please vote for the affirmative. Thank you.
Everyone, this is the last time we'll be speaking, so I want to thank everyone. Thank you to the audience for coming, and thank you to my debate team. So, affirmative wants to say that AI is a guiding tool that will really improve the social work system and create a miracle fix for everything. But the reality is that it's a dangerous optimism and a slippery slope. We have to be cautious with how we take AI, and ultimately, the resolution is, will we allow it in our decision making? And my opponent says that it can be my teammate says that it can be used to guide and influence, but ultimately the decision should be made holistically by psychologists and social workers within the system. AI does not solve bias, but it does scale it up. It increases it. It turns every biased decision from the past into a blueprint for future decisions. The AI uses these past decisions to guide itself, and it's trained on classist and flawed data, so it needs to, and it automatically repeats these patterns and gives answers that are within that. So it makes discrimination faster and more efficient and not fairer, because then someone has to check the work and everything that the AI is doing, which families it's flagging, why did it choose them, every single thing, and why is it saying that these psychological cues or behaviors are traumatizing or abusive to the child. If AI learns from these bias case files and over police neighborhoods and economic assumptions, they feed into the systematic bias. But ultimately, efficiency isn't justice. Moving faster does not mean we're getting better outcomes. It means that families will be torn apart, and it is necessary to have holistic judgments and offer a true solution that involves human caseworkers, training them to handle biases and reducing their caseloads, improving who can be a social worker and access to social work help, and giving them time to do their jobs fairly and equitably and thoroughly. Real reform does not come from outsourcing to human algorithms, and for these reasons, you should not put your trust in allowing AI to make decisions in social work. Thank you.
Everyone stand up and give us a big standing ovation like we do my college. Thank you.
I do want to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. I want to turn it over and see what kinds of responses you might have to what we've just witnessed as a social work expert.
Well, I think that you guys both, on both sides of the debate, had really important points. Please sit down. You both had really great arguments. You both brought up really important issues on both sides of the debate. On the affirmative side, you talked about the importance of burnout among caseworkers. That's a huge issue. You talked about our overwhelmed courts, the inefficiency of our courts. And you talked about the ability of AI to read emotions, but it only happens sometimes. And I think that that's important because on the negative side of the debate, you talked about the cultural issues, and I think that's huge because in the United States, we have a massive problem with racial disparity in the child welfare system. And a big part of that is because of the racial bias that's kind of baked into the way our child welfare work is being done. And so there's a concern with, as you said, if we use the algorithms that would be used in today's work, they would be based on kind of the way that work is being done now. And that's very concerning to me, certainly, because they would, we're a long way from algorithms being changed enough so that we wouldn't be basing them on the already existing racial biases. And then in terms of the sort of reading of emotions, emotions are expressed so differently from one culture to the next culture that AI can read emotions, but the way that we express emotions in the Western world isn't necessarily the way emotions are expressed in the Eastern world or in other cultures. So that is challenging, for sure. And then also the need for empathy is huge. And on the negative side, Sagheerah, you mentioned that need for empathy, and we can't ever get away from that because we're always going to have that. Because in terms of assessing for child safety, which is essentially what we do in child child welfare. We're assessing to make sure that the child in front of us is safe. 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. So sometimes there are these nuances that we have to look for, and we have to have empathy for the situation. And we may have a parent who has done some things that on the surface seem completely wacky and seem like, that is not a thing that a parent would do to keep their child safe. Like if they were in a situation of domestic violence and they were doing things that you would think, well, obviously your child's not safe if you're staying in this home where someone is abusing you, and your child is also there, and your child is also at risk. But they may be choosing to stay there because they're afraid if they leave, their child will be in more danger. So they're making decisions that they believe are to keep their child safe. So they're making decisions that they're, in a way that they're trying to keep their child safe, even though on the surface we're thinking, it's not really a safe thing. It's not a safe situation. So we have to have some empathy and kind of weigh these things on a different scale. So AI can't really do that for us, right? That takes some human intuition, sometimes a little experience, and that's why no one person ever makes a decision about whether or not a child stays home or goes into foster care. Those decisions are never made by a single person. Those decisions are always made by a caseworker and a supervisor, at least 2 people. And that's an effort to sort of avoid some of that bias. It's still, there's still bias out there, obviously, because we have a problem with overrepresentation of especially Black children in foster care. But, the decisions aren't made impacted. So there's that. But I thought you guys did a great job, really, really, on both sides of the
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Well, we have the option of doing a couple of things. I can do like some Q&A if anyone else had questions in the audience, or we could take a quick poll and see which side people fell on, right? It's not, again, like wins and losses are always subjective anyway, so don't worry, no one's gonna have their feelings get hurt. We've won many and lost many. So, did you have any questions, first of all, or commentary? All right, well, who thought that the affirmative of Elisa did the better job of debating today? Or like won your position that AI should be used more often? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I knew that one was going to go that way. All right, so 6. So who thought the negation, Sagheerah, was correct on not using it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right. Congratulations to Sagheerah. But like, I always like to emphasize that like people view debate rounds from their own perspectives, and like it doesn't mean that like one person is correct on an issue. It means we have things to work out, things to discuss, and like that's why I'm really happy to have you all here to have these discussions, to like learn more about these issues, because this stuff ain't going away, right? And so hopefully in the next one that I think we're planning for April, where we talk about whether or not AI will actually have the capacity to improve journalism, which is very hot button for those in that field. Maybe you'll come out for that as well. But for now, thank you so much.
Thank you all very, very much.